Gibbo presents.
It's Gibbo, and right now I'm joined by Max Glazer of Federation Sounds, who on May the 9th will be taking part in the Red Bull Music Academy Culture Clash 2013 at the Roseland Ballroom in New York. The Culture Clash is part of the Red Bull Music Academy, which is a series of events which take place in New York this month. Before we go into more detail about the clash itself, could you briefly tell me a little more about the festival, some of the other events which are taking place, and the people who are involved in those events?
Yeah, I mean, the Culture Clash is the only event that me and Federation are actually specifically involved in. But the Red Bull Music Academy is something that they do every year, and they do it in a different city. This year's is in New York, and they keep young musicians, artists, writers, singers apply to be a part of the academy, and then they set up like a series of programs that the people who have been accepted into the academy take part in, and a lot of it is pairing younger, up-and-coming artists, the people who apply to the academy, with sort of masters in the field, and combining people from different fields and just putting people together for collaboration and giving like these young artists some access to some really interesting minds, creative people, but then also to some really great studio space, because what they do everywhere they do the Red Bull Music Academy is the Red Bull Music Academy is a physical place that they build with recording studios and just a whole array of instruments and music, the physical place, and then bring the people into it to work. And then because they're bringing all these people into one city for a concentrated period of time, there's, throughout the span of the academy, there's a whole series of events, spanning every kind of music, from electronic to reggae to rock to everything. And there's events going on throughout the time of the academy as well, across the board.
New York is a huge city where there's always a lot going on. Is the festival managing to capture people's attention?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. To be honest, my attention has been solely focused on preparing for my event. But yeah, no, they definitely make a big print on the plate. If you go into the subway, there's ads for the Red Bull Music Academy everywhere. One of the people who's the face of it, they can see on a lot of posters, Sweat Glove, and there's stuff going on all over the place everywhere. So like you said, I mean, New York's a giant city. There's always a million things going on. But this seems to have brought sort of some really interesting people and some events that you wouldn't really see happening on their own. I mean, such as the Culture Clash, because there's really nothing, there's kind of nothing like it in the world, and that's the first one that Red Bull is doing in New York. So to have the opportunity to do that is definitely something outside of the box that people are interested in. That's not something you would get on a regular Thursday night in New York City.
If we move on now to the Culture Clash itself, how will it differ from a quote-unquote traditional sound clash?
Well, to me, Federation is coming from, representing the reggae side of things, reggae and dancehall. So, and even though we're not really primarily a clash sound, I think sort of like conceptually, we sort of have the idea of what that is. But the thing is based on the style and format of a Jamaican style traditional sound clash, but it's putting four different styles of music against each other. So what might be the best thing to play when you're playing for an all reggae crowd? A big part of this is, one, if you're in a clash, reggae versus reggae, you're trying to bring out your supporters, because that's a big part of it. So a big part of it is, one, how you play, but also who brings out your people, because people just in general tend to be, I don't want to say biased, but partial, or, they have their favorites. I think most people aren't going out to it like,
Are you able to tell me what the format of the clash will be, and if there are any rules you know of?
Yeah, I mean, the basic format of the clash is a four-way sound clash. Is a four-way sound clash with four rounds. They're going really old school style. Everyone is set up with their own stage, so each team has their own stage, their own DJ area, their own sound system. So there's no sort of there should be no discrepancies as you really have your own team on the stage. So it's a four-way sound clash, 4 rounds. I don't know if I could do like the complete specifics of the round, but I believe it's like a 15-minute round, a 12-minute round, and then 2 10-minute rounds. And you have the ability to bring out surprise guests, do all the dubplate stuff that people want to do, and just I mean, I think in some respects, kind of got to wait and see what everybody does, because it's sort of it's kind of a new concept, definitely for New York. So I think we kind of have to wait and see how everybody takes it and what people do to kind of figure out what it is don't do.
Is it fairly safe to say that we won't be hearing the sounds dissing each other's mothers?
I mean, you may hear that, but also I think that's one of the things that maybe doesn't translate so well across genres, whereas if, you're dealing with 4 reggae sounds, everybody sort of understands that frame of reference, and it's kind of part of the, part of the deal, so to speak. But I think with this, I think it's more figuring out how to get the crowd on your side.
I know Federation... Sorry, carry on?
No, I'm sorry. No, go ahead. I was done.
I was going to say, I know Federation has a deep dub box. Do you think you will be the only sounds who utilize dub plates in this clash?
No, I think there'll be some other dub plates getting played. I mean, we obviously have a head start in that, because that's something that we do and have done. But in the final round of the clash, I believe you can only play dubplate specials and or have live performances. So essentially the last round is, no 45, no regular versions of songs to play. But it doesn't mean you have to play dubplate, because you can also have live performances in that round. So, but I think it leaves it open to, people in other genres if they wanted to go that route, doing some outside of the box dubplate thing with perhaps artists in their respective genres. So that's one of the things that's interesting to me is, and then again, everyone sort of knows and expects Federation to have dubplate because we've had them for a long time. So I'm interested to see what, if anything, our opponents come up with in the dubplate arena.
Are there any limitations as to how many guest artists you're allowed to involve?
That's a question that I never asked. I don't think there's any limitation as to the number of guest artists. The only limitation is the time, and the rounds are pretty short. There's not a lot of time. There's a lot of music to play. So, I think that's probably the only restriction on numbers. There's no restriction on numbers because you're restricted by the time, no matter what.
How will the winner be decided? And is a sound to be eliminated after each round, or will there only be one vote at the end of the clash?
There won't be elimination, I believe, unless there's some sort of major disqualification. But there's not an elimination round. The clash is judged on crowd response, noise, I believe using a decibel meter to keep it scientific. That's always one of the stumbling points of clashes, is when people are deciding on crowd response and then people don't agree on the judging of the loudness of the crowd response. So it's it's decided by crowd response, judged by a decibel meter. I think the final round, I'm not positive, the final round may be weighted heavier than believe it'll be done at a crowd response at the end of each round is how the judging will be dealt with. And like I said, I believe that the final round will carry extra weight more than the earlier round.
Tell me about the three sounds who you'll be going up against, what their backgrounds are, what they specialise in, and what they bring to the clash.
Well, first and foremost, we're going up against Just Blaze and Young Guru, who are playing hip-hop. And, Just Blaze is, one, a friend, but also a multi-platinum producer for Jay-Z, Eminem, everyone in between. And Young Guru is famously the engineer who engineers pretty much all of Jay-Z's records, and him and Just Blaze work together. And I believe currently Guru is Jay-Z's DJ as well. So those guys are playing hip hop. So that's a heavyweight team. There's that. Then there is a crew out of New York called Gibbo, which is a Blue Dandy and Gecko Stone, and they're billed as as Latin, but I think I would describe them as more Latin electronic, not traditional Latin, not salsa meringue Latin, but more of a contemporary, sort of big tropical based oriented Latin crew, and and I know those guys pretty well also. Those guys have they're in Brooklyn doing their thing. They have some ties to reggae, and they have some roots in the reggae world. So I know that they know their way around a sound clash. What it means, sort of what the whole concept is, and then the fourth team is also a crew out of New York, Brooklyn, called Trouble and Date, which was originally to be Fool's Gold. I was informed recently that it would be Trouble and Date instead of Fool's Gold, so I don't know exactly what the reason for the switch was, but I think there was maybe a scheduling conflict, and Fool's Gold were not able to be in it. So it's Trouble and Date, and I don't know that much about them. I just know they're representing the electronic side, sort of real heavy, dark, heavy electronic based music. As far as where they connect to Sound Clash and the reggae world, I don't have much insight on that, so I'm interested to see where what they come up with.
As you mentioned earlier, Federation are the only sound in the clash who come from a true dancehall or reggae backgrounds. Therefore, I would guess you're a lot more familiar with clashing than any of your opponents. Do you think this puts you at an advantage?
Well, we're not really a clash sound. We're really a juggling and production and sort of the other thing. So we're not out there doing sound clashes on the regular basis. So I think everybody else thinks it probably puts us at an advantage with the clash thing, but I'm not looking. I'm sort of coming into it as from a fresh perspective, and we're really putting in all the work. I'm not taking for granted that we come from Earth, so we should have this on block. I think everyone else may be looking at it like, well, this is a sound clash thing. That's the world these guys come from. But again, like I said, we're not primarily have never been a clash sound. We're definitely a juggling, producing, remixing sound. It'll be an interesting. It'll be interesting to see sort of who everyone is going at and what they're bringing to the table.
Are you a big Sound Clash fan? Do you follow the Clash scene at all? Did you listen to Clash tapes when you were an aspiring young selector?
Yeah, right these days I don't listen to much, but coming up, I definitely listened to a lot of it. It was a lot of what inspired kind of a lot of what we do, but not necessarily doing it in a Clash way, just like the energy of, mid-90s, early to late 90s, King Addy, got into it through the dubplates, which, I love. Then going back, digging, and sort of learning about the, when the Clash was really all about what artists you had on your team. So that whichever was the heaviest sound, the artist wanted to be rocking on that sound. And then also, that would bring more artists. So it would kind of be, your artist against my artist, just dropping rhythm and people sort of dissing each other live that way.
Have you listened to the audio from any of the past culture clashes or looked at what has worked at past editions of the events?
Yeah, I've watched a lot of YouTube clips of the various ones of some of the ones in the West Coast here, which were smaller, definitely on the smaller side. And then I watched a lot of clips of this most recent London culture clash, and I would say the most important thing that I learned, and this is from the London clash, is the biggest guest artist doesn't necessarily win you the clash.
Do you think there's a blueprint on how to win a culture clash?
I think it's very different because I think, this is the first one happening in New York, so I think maybe this one will set sort of a precedent for how the event goes. I feel like, and I've always felt like London, and in the UK in general, but London specifically, that everyone kind of spanning genres has a pretty good awareness of reggae culture because so much of London's underground music, be it like grime, UK funky, hip hop, and down to the reggae has some West Indian roots somewhere. So I feel like across the board that like sound system culture and dancehall and reggae culture, even if everyone's not fully into it, there's a little bit of it sprinkled in almost everything when it comes to the music. Whereas in New York, I think it's not so much. And then also in the West Coast, there's much less sound system culture because it's not a place where there's a huge Jamaican community or a huge West Indian community. So I think New York does have a lot of that, but I think it'll manifest itself a little differently, than the way it did in London. So while I'm watching those, it's very interesting to me. I kind of have a feeling that, New York is going to be a little bit its own thing because, the idea of culture clash is to get, people who, one, represent, four different styles of music, but two, also are a pretty good representation of the location of music in New York City.
When the last culture clash took place here in the UK at the end of last year, some people criticised the events as they felt Red Bull were stealing an idea that belonged to reggae music and using it for their own gain. What's your response to this criticism? Is it in any way valid?
I mean, everybody has the right to feel how they feel. My feeling on it is, much like sometimes when people who are outsiders to the genre, record something with a reggae influence, sometimes people take offense at that and don't like it. The way you generally look at that, I mean, there's ways things that can be done that are egregiously offensive, but in general, I look at that as if someone outside of our field is acknowledging what we do and doing something that has the potential to make more people outside of our world and our bubble aware of it, that even if it's like musically not something that I may love, I usually support the fact that hopefully something is opening reggae or we have is complaint that we can't sell any records and people don't support events. They don't come out to shows. If you talk to anybody in the reggae community, those are the concerns they go here. And I think, one of the only ways to try to fight that is to broaden the base and expand it. And mind you, I say this coming from as someone who's clearly not of Jamaican descent. I found this, and Federation found it, and me and my partner found it and fell in love with it, and now it's what we do. But someone can say that to me because I was born in it. That why should I be doing it? But I don't personally run into much of that. I generally run into people that are happy to see someone, even from outside, supporting what the thing that we all love and trying to make it bigger and create more awareness of it. That's my main thing.
Lastly, before we finish, carry on, Max.
I was going to say, and that's sort of my thing. Whereas, Red Bull gives us the opportunity to do this, and also I think it's done. I like being given the opportunity to do it, but I also like to see it going on in London, and it gives us the opportunity to do it, but also it's done in a creative and interesting way. It's not Red Bull going, okay, hey, I just want to sponsor this sound clash that's going on. Whatever normal sound clash is going on, we just want to sponsor that. I think that's part of the interest to me because, like I said, Federation isn't really a clash sound per se. The interesting thing to me is to do this to represent reggae and dancehall against three other styles of music. So I actually find that really interesting, and that's part of what really made me want to be a part of it. In that creative twist on the traditional sound clash concept.
Lastly, I know you're a busy man. Other than the Culture Clash, is there anything else that you'd like to plug or mention?
We've been really busy working on Culture Clash, and then following that, for the last year, I set up and have been running an online radio station called RadioLily.com, which is part of the Lily's restaurant in Manhattan, in New York City. And we've done some really amazing stuff there. We're just growing leaps and bounds. I had live in studio performances with Sean Paul, Mr. Vegas, Conscious, Edie Man, Brigadier Jerry, Jimmy Cliff, and the list goes on. So I'm really looking to devote a lot of time to RadioLily.com. Also continue to build FederationSound.com, and really this year spend more time both myself and Kenny B and our partners Alex and Boyd in Jamaica, doing production work and creating original music. Because we've done some of it, but there's always other stuff keeping us busy. So following the Culture Clash, we all really want to sit down and get working on original more and more as well.
Thanks a lot, Max. Best of luck on Thursday.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having us.
Gibbo.